there is a lot that I think we feel very proud that we've done and taken care of. When you look at the immigration piece in particular, border crossings way down, the number of executive orders and pieces of legislation the president signed. I think we feel very proud of what we've been able to accomplish and fulfill the promises that he's made to the American people. But I think it's got to be kept in context, and I think there is sort of this artificial number that gets thrown out. So on one. Well, I mean, the context is it's 100 days, and you have 4 years in your first term, and 8 years for 2 terms. That I think.
Trump introduced a contract with the American voter over 100 days.
I understand, right. And so again, I think when you look at the number of pieces of legislation, the executive orders, business confidence, the place, the U.S.'s role in the world, there's a lot that we feel that a lot of accomplishments that have occurred, and we feel very good about what we've done as we head up to this first 100 days. But I think you're going to continue to see a lot of action and a lot of results going into the second 100 days, the third 100 days, all the way
if
through.
In 100 days there is no funding, explicit funding to the wall, and there's no health care reform or repeal of Obamacare, would the president consider that, and would he invite his supporters to consider that a conspicuous failure based on the promises he made during the campaign?
Right. I think when you look at the totality of what we've accomplished on job creation, on immigration, on trade, it is unbelievable what he has been able to do. And so it's not, you can cherry pick any couple of things and say, okay, well, what about this or that? But I think when you look at it overall, in terms of the drop in border crossings, if you look at consumer confidence and the relationships that we've developed around the globe and the accomplishments this president's had on protecting the country, on bringing back jobs and starting, those have been unbelievably significant. And so to minimize that or to look and pick out 2 or 3 things, but I think, look, we're going to continue to push for health care reform. We feel very good about the direction that it's going in. It's been very positive. And I think that the construction of a wall is going to continue to be an area that moves forward. But all of that stuff is happening just as the president asked for and committed to doing. Some of it, has been a little slower, but mostly because of working through Congress and getting things done. But when you think about what he's started, he'll move forward on tax reform, health care, on immigration, on trade. It's been a hugely successful first 100 days.
And without the president necessarily describing it as a failure or not, would he say that he's learned something about the process and how long things take that he perhaps didn't appreciate as a candidate? Maybe he overpromised on the speed with which he'd achieved these things?
No, look, with all due respect, I think that when you look at the lists of things in each of the various areas that he's been able to do, I think he's very pleased.
I'm talking about some conspicuous campaign promises that rally after rally he
Right.
made and said, don't worry, it's going to happen.
Right, and I think on health care.
All I'm asking is, does he have a different awareness of how difficult those things are than he did as a candidate?
I'm sure that there are things that you learn in the job, but I think that he is very proud of what he has set out to do and the progress that we've made. And I think you're going to see healthcare get done, but it's going to get done right. And that, in particular, is something that we're continuing to work at. We can't make people vote, but we've made significant progress and moved the legislation forward and improved it greatly. And I think that we are going to see progress on that.
100 days, if I can just follow up. The contract with the American voter that the president signed included 10 pieces of legislation. Mm-hmm. Right now, he's 0 for 10. Only one of those has actually been introduced.
Right. And I think that we're going to continue to work with Congress. As he says in that document, I will work with Congress to achieve these, and we're going to continue to work with Congress to achieve those.
But why have 9 of them not even been introduced?
I think when you look at what he has done, in terms of Supreme Court justice, the executive orders, the number of legislation, there's a lot that has gotten done. I don't think anyone, I remember very clearly the first few weeks, and still to some extent, the comments that got made about the pace that we were keeping and we have kept. The president has been extremely busy, and I think when you recognize the amount of issues that he's tackled, the amount of progress that he's made, it is very significant, and we will continue to present all of that throughout the week. But again, as I said to Major, I think you can look at a few of these areas and nitpick a couple of them, but I think overall, he has signed a record number of executive orders. He has rolled back regulatory reforms. No, I understand that, but right.
To take action.
But I don't think there's any question that the president has done a significant amount for the American people on the issues that he has put forward during the campaign.
Just to be clear, you're not describing the wall and health care as nitpicking.
Jim.
Are you?
No, I'm not. Neither of the. No, I'm not. Those pieces are not small, but I'm saying in terms of overall what he has accomplished has been unbelievably significant. When you talk about all of the other areas, the regulatory relief, the efforts that he's made on immigration, on trade, all of those issues. And again, what I'm trying to say is when you look at everything that he's done and the amount that he's accomplished in these first 100 days, I think you can go back and find an area, one or two, and say, okay, well, he didn't do this. But I think you have to look at it in totality of what he actually did get done.
On the second issue, on the 100 days, if as someone mentioned, the president tweeted that it was a ridiculous, timetable or whatever, why is the White House doing so much this week? You have indicated that all these activities this week, from hearing from different people, are because of the 100 days. Why do this 100-day push if it's a ridiculous amount of
I think
time?
we've gotten a fairly decent amount of inquiries from you and your colleagues, and so in order to answer those inquiries,
Something for us?
yeah, well, we're givers. I don't think there's anyone in this room that hasn't lodged a request to say we're writing a story on the 100-day mark. We're doing this on the 100-day mark, and so we want to make sure that we answer your questions as truthfully as possible and as thoroughly and comprehensively. So we will have to fulfill all of these requests that are coming in from you and your colleagues. But I also think that we are very proud, and the president's very proud of what he's been able to accomplish in the first 100 days. And, as we sprint towards these final 100 days, there's two things. One, I think because of the inquiries that we've had, we want to make sure we take an opportunity to make sure that people understand how much he's done in all the different areas. But we also want to start talking about the next 100 days and what else is left to be done, and how we're going to continue to work hard to get all of that done. But there's a lot that has been accomplished, and I think there's an appropriate